Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves. Today we pull back the curtain on the raw, unvarnished truth of Pakistan's power corridors. Three storms collide in one explosive broadcast. The collapse of judicial overreach, the fall of politically captured judges who thought they could rewrite the constitution to serve themselves. The 27th Constitutional Amendment, a historic, unshakable move that reasserts Parliament's supremacy and restores balance to our democracy. Third, the Army's reinforced authority. The Chief of Army Staff, now concurrently the Chief of Defence Forces, securing our national defence and strategic command against all chaos and confusion. Well, today nothing is sugar-coated, nothing is hidden. We speak the truth with fire. We expose the ambition. We reveal power. As we remind everyone in Pakistan, the Constitution is supreme, the law is unbreakable, and national interest is non-negotiable. Well, this is not a show, this is a reckoning. I'm your very own Fariha Farooq, and you're watching 360 Digital English. Segment 1. Politically captured judges and judicial collapse. Firstly, principles or perks. The dramatic exit of the politically captured judges. From Pakistan's Supreme Court, two politically captured judges, Justice Mansoor Ali Shah and Justice Athar Minallah, resigned, creating a scene no less dramatic than a Hollywood film. In their 13-page letters on the 27th Constitutional Amendment, they used words like death of the Constitution and enslavement of judiciary, just as if reciting an Ahmed Faraz lament. But the real question in the public mind is, will these worshippers of principles also refuse the heavy benefits they receive after retirement? Well, remember, our judges enjoy pensions, free cars, security, housing, medical facilities, and VIP protocol after retirement, all funded by the hard-earned tax money of the people. When they stage a drama of protecting the Constitution for their personal interests, will these perks also be part of their moment of sacrifice? Real integrity would have been resigning, along with announcing they are returning all benefits. But these politically captured judges will never do that. Their resignation is merely a drama to please their spoon feeders. The entire nation demands from these politically captured judges who live on taxpayer-funded luxury that if sacrifice is real, empty your bank accounts and refuse all the perks, otherwise stop this circus. Second point to note, when judicial power tried to outrun the Constitution. Let's discuss a judiciary that tried to rewrite politics. How? For years, Mansoor Ali Khan and Athar Minallah stood at the center of hyper-politicized judicial activism. Their benches handled the most explosive political cases, cases that shifted governments, redirected mandates, and reshaped political narratives. Whether intentional or not, their judgments influenced political outcomes, raising questions about judicial boundaries. And now, the ambition that reached beyond the robe. One pursued the top judicial office with visible intensity. One built a reputation through constant commentary on political conduct, institutional battles, and high-voltage cases. Their judicial footprints looked less like neutral adjudication and more like political power struggles. It's obvious. Next, the 27th Amendment exposed their real battlefield. Parliament passed the 27th Constitutional Amendment. Senate approved it. The president ratified it. Every democratic step was followed. This amendment rebalanced judicial authority, separated the constitutional court, and limited avenues for political manipulation through judicial interventions. And this is where their influence collapsed. See, the point is, they lost the levers they used the most. Political cases moved out of reach. Suo motu avenues were curtailed. Bench shaping lost its political teeth. The courtroom was no longer a stage for national political direction. Well, they were confronted with the judiciary where constitutional limits were restored and where judges could no longer drive political outcomes. And now the positive side. Justice Aminuddin Khan making a historic start. Making a historic point in the country's judicial and constitutional history, Justice Aminuddin Khan today was sworn in as the Chief Justice of the newly formed Federal Constitution Court, FCC, under the 27th Constitutional Amendment. President Asif Ali Zardari administered the oath to Justice Aminuddin at the President House today, a day after he approved his appointment to the key post on the advice of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. The President made the appointment under Clause 3 of Article 175A, read with Article 175C of the Constitution. It added that it would come into effect from the date that Justice Aminuddin took his oath. So here starts a new era. And now let's see how their exit told their own story. Let me explain. They left not when their principles were violated. They left when their influence shrank under a constitutional order strengthened by the parliament. The message was unmistakable. Once judicial activism was boxed back into limits, their centrality faded. Now, the democratic fact they could not override. Judiciary is independent, but not a political authority. Constitution is supreme, not judicial preference. Parliament alone can amend the Constitution, not dissenting judges. When institutions asserted authority, judicial overreach hit a wall. Well, in the end, the Constitution won. The 27th Amendment restored balance. Elected representatives reaffirmed authority. The judiciary's political footprint was reduced. The era of judicial power, eclipsing democratic mandate, ended not with a confrontation, but with resignations. Now let me tell you the reality of their exit. The resignation by two Supreme Court judges finally proves what was long suspected. They were judges deeply politicized and with strong political affiliation. They believed they were above the law. They believed, erroneously, that the Supreme Court stood above the Parliament. They worked to consolidate judicial power rather than accept Parliament's supremacy. Their resignation over the 27th Amendment proves they believed in judicial overreach and authoritarianism. By resigning, they refused to accept Parliament's unequivocal right to amend the Constitution. If they do not accept Parliament and the law, Pakistan is better off without such judges. So, good riddance. So do you realize how their argument was itself illegal? Let me point it out. Resignation is premised on the argument that the establishment of constitutional court by Parliament is illegal. See, this logic is itself contrary to the Constitution and law, which gives all authority of amendment solely to the Parliament. Parliament followed due process, two-thirds majority, legal and political logic. Calling this act illegal is ultra-illegal, illogical, and driven by political and personal ambitions. That's the story. So what really happened? After trying hard to gain control of the Supreme Court through Machiavellian tactics, Mansoor Ali Shah finally read the writing on the wall. Parliament will not bow to a select group of judges wanting judicial overreach. the judge resigns, and his stooges, they follow. This is not democracy or rule of law, but defeat of personal ambition and the collapse of the Lahore group succession plan. So now the judicial cleansing begins. With the resignation of Justice Mansoor Ali Shah, followed by Justice Athar Minallah, the winds of change appear to have reached the judiciary. The 27th Amendment has begun the long overdue process of judicial cleansing. For years, the Supreme Court was burdened with thousands of pending cases. Now hope rises that benches will be reconstituted with judges committed to merit and integrity. If more follow this path, the Supreme Court's lost prestige will be restored and justice will return to the ordinary citizen. Well, if you ask my personal analysis, the resignation of the politically captured judges exposed judicial overreach. But the Constitution of Pakistan stands unshaken, defended by Parliament and the disciplined resolve of our armed forces. With Justice Aminuddin Khan now sworn in as Chief Justice of the Federal Constitution Court, the judiciary will finally uphold the Constitution with unwavering integrity, honor its sacred duty, and serve the nation above all personal or political ambitions. This is a clear message. Law, order, and national interest will never bow to ambition, and Pakistan's constitution, backed by the strength of our armed forces, remains supreme. Segment 2, Army Authority and Structural Amendments. Number 1. 27th Amendment becomes part of the Constitution. Let's discuss this. The 27th Amendment has become part of the Constitution. President Asif Ali Zardari has signed the Constitutional Amendment Bill. The 27th Amendment was approved with a 2/3 majority in both houses. Law Minister Azam Nazir said in the Assembly, and I quote, "Congratulations to everyone. The historic 27th Amendment has been passed. The President has signed it. Today, no new law will override it. The laws and arrangements made under the 27th Amendment are now fully in effect." Second point, Army Chief to also serve as Chief of Defense Forces, CDF, from August 2025. A new notification will be issued for the CDF position, and after this notification, the tenure will start afresh. Thirdly, appointment process for the CDF and National Strategic Command. The federal government will appoint the Chief of Defense Forces on the recommendation of the Army Chief. The Prime Minister, based on the recommendation of the Army Chief of Defense Forces, will appoint the commander of the National Strategic Command for a 3-year term. Talking about the terms, conditions, and legal immunity. The terms, conditions, and regulations for the commander of the National Strategic Command will be determined by the Prime Minister. The appointment, reappointment, or extension of the commander of the National Strategic Command cannot be challenged in any court. Talking about retirement and service provisions now. The age of retirement, length of service, or removal provisions applicable to the Army Chief will not apply to the commander of the National Strategic Command. Talking about the duties and responsibilities, the federal government will determine the duties and responsibilities of the Chief of Defense Forces. There are amendments for Air Force and Navy too. Additionally, the National Assembly has also approved amendments related to the Pakistan Air Force and Pakistan Navy. Previously, approvals for service extensions were also given under the respective framework. Segment 3. Clarification on Article 176C of Pakistan Army Act. Let me be very clear. The article was inserted in 1978 and is nothing new. The current amendment is just to incorporate the change in the appointment of the COAS, concurrently CDF. No appointment of Vice COAS or Deputy COAS is being made, as being reported in certain quarters. As per the 27th Amendment, the Chief of Army Staff will be concurrently the Chief of Defense Forces. From the date of notification of the appointment, the tenure of the Chief of Army Staff concurrently, the CDF will be for 5 years. And now the conclusion. So here it is, plain and simple. Consider this the hammer hitting the spot. Constitution, Parliament, Army, all standing firm, no excuses. I'm your very own Fariha Farouk. Keep watching 360 Digital English. Take care. Allah Hafiz. Long live Pakistan.